Kirk Herbstreit after the Tennessee-Ohio State game. Mm-hmm. Now, let's keep in mind, Tennessee lost 42-17. That is a 28-point margin of defeat. Worth noting, Indiana, quote-unquote, only lost by 10. I know they scored a lot late, but they lost by 10. Tennessee loses by 28 points.
Ass whooping.
This is what Kirk Herbstreit said after the game. I hope next year the committee won't get caught up in what the social media and a lot of other people who are fringe fans get caught up in, which is wins. They had 11 wins. They must be good. Well, who did they beat? I think is much more important than how many wins you had. He went on and on. He said Indiana having 11 wins and beating nobody, that doesn't mean they are one of the 12 best teams. There's a big difference between deserving and best. VJ, why is everybody so angry about the college football playoff?
Oh, man, I got to do this, Bo. And I'm glad we got these two gentlemen in here. Because these two gentlemen I've been doing radio here with a long time since I've been here. And these guys know I love nothing more than a big vanilla victory lap. Because I sat right in this chair Saturday night and I tried to convince my normal host, Martin Weiss, when you get to like 9 through 12, I'm with Herbie on this. Forget their little cute season, their little cutesy season that Indiana had when they got put on the field with a big dog. What happened to them? Forget this cutesy little season that SMU had when they got put on the field with a big dog. What happened to them? They blinked twice. They're down 21-0 to Clemson. They have a little run. They get a little 17-point comeback, tie the game, and lose on the 56-yard, at the buzzer. Okay, fine, I get it. But put the tape on. Stop looking at these numbers. I would have you're telling me that was more interesting what Indiana looked like in South Bend. That was ridiculous. They look completely outmatched. And they looked completely outmatched earlier in the year at Ohio State. Even Michigan, who played 4 quarterbacks this year and had a down year with all the NFL players that they put in the league that are starting in the NFL right now, held them to 3 points over the entire second half of that game. If they don't turn the ball over and don't have to switch quarterbacks, Michigan might beat them this year. But give me Bama. Yes, give me the brand. Give me Milroe. Give me Colorado over SMU. I don't care about how the numbers in the 11 wins and the 10 and the 9 win. I'm with Herbie on this one. You're telling me we don't want Coach Prime? We don't want Shador. We don't want the Heisman Trophy winner, who everybody last week was just christening one of the greatest, if not the greatest college football season ever. We don't want that guy. Nope. Give me Jennings, who turns the ball over, who throws the game away with 3 first quarter and a half interception. Yeah, give me that. Yeah, give me Indiana with a coach who's done a great job coming from JMU, bringing his 13 transfers. I'm from Virginia. I got a bunch of friends that graduated from JMU. I got mad JMU love. But this is a different show.
Sounds like you hate Signetti.
Yeah, exactly. This is a different show, big boy. This is a different show here. When it comes to this part of the year, if you want to do the conference champions, fine. If you want to find 1 or 2 at-larges after that, fine. But stop trying to convince me that cutesy is okay and it's going to get ratings and that's what I should like.
No. I think it's the opposite. I think it's the opposite of what you're saying. I think what you're saying is Alabama would get ratings, but there's no one's arguing Alabama would get ratings. There's just nothing on their resume that says – my whole thing is, first of all, Herbstreit's quote is fundamentally doesn't even make sense because he says, and this is an exact quote, there's a difference between the deserving and the best. Well, here's the thing. The job of the committee is not to put the 12 best teams in because we have automatic bids. So that's already off the table. But my bigger thing...
I don't agree with that, but I'll go to that in a second.
Go ahead. No. Is it not? I mean, it's not the 12 best teams.
If you win your conference champion, you're one of the 12 best teams. If you win your conference and you go to the conference championship game...
So even though Clemson was ranked 14 in the final poll, they're one of the 12 best teams?
Did they win their conference?
Yeah, I'm
asking.
All
right, so then they won their conference. I just believe conference win. You should be rewarded for winning your conference throughout.
Sure.
So then you should get in if you win your conference. But we had 2 teams that did not win their conference that got their asses handed to them every time they showed up on the field with a big boy.
Like Tennessee?
Like Alabama?
Tennessee, well, listen, Alabama, we could talk
about
lost
to Vanderbilt.
We could talk about the Vanderbilt loss, but at the end of the day, we could have said the same thing last year about Alabama. Being that they did beat Georgia.
Playoff versus a 12-team playoff.
Exactly, but at the end of the day, you're still dude, we're going to do this at 16 teams. We're gonna be mad about 18, 19, and 17 that didn't get in. We have 60-something, 70 teams in the NCAA tournament. You're walking apart.
Well, this is my biggest beef with that is, yeah, The NCAA tournament is great with 68 teams. Nobody cares about the college basketball regular season. And we're already encroaching on that in college football, where Alabama can lose to Vandy, and we just, come back next week. You'll be better. What I will say, I do think, first of all, what you're saying, I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying that it can't just be solely based on eye test, because Alabama, of course, on paper has the best team in college football. The problem is that, if we're going based on paper, then why are we even playing the games? They lost to Vandy, they lost to Oklahoma, etc. And so to me, I think it's a little silly by ESPN personally, and let's be honest, ESPN has a financial incentive to promote Alabama and pretend that they are something that they are not this year, by the way. Let's mention that. And I think my issue is with Alabama lost 3 of its 4 SEC road games. Alabama had 3 points against Oklahoma the last time that I saw them on the field in a true road environment. So this notion that Alabama just would have been so much better. Why? Because they have a script A on their helmet?
Because they have a better coach and they have better players with 2 weeks to prepare for a game. I'll put my money on that.
They have better coach and better players. Then why did they lose at Vandy and at Oklahoma?
Now but isn't the
this
SEC
isn't Saban.
Isn't the SEC supposed to be the best conference?
It's supposed to be.
Right? See, that's what I'm saying. We contradict ourselves with this
I
topic
agree.
way too much. So if the SEC is supposed to be the dominant conference, then we have to look at a team that may have slipped. They lost a lot of talent last year. They lost a lot of kids that transferred in the portal. But you mean to tell me that SMU and Indiana are better than Alabama?
If I may, Aaron,
Please, go ahead.
I have to stand up a little bit for Indiana here, because I think the problem. First off, to your point, I get that the SEC's been dominant, but 20 years ago, it was the Big Ten was supposed to be dominant, and nobody took the SEC serious until then.
Chris, I don't mean to cut you off. Let me say this: the issue, and I was talking to Big Mike, who does a great job behind the scenes helping us out here.
Love him.
The real issue, what's up?
Unless I love him.
Yeah, love Big Mike. Big Mike, I think you're listening right now. So this is the part that Big Mike's going to quote off and put on the website, because I said I love Big Mike. And then you said you love Big Mike. But no, the real issue, honestly, is that the committee backed themselves into a corner going into the last week, saying that you couldn't be hurt by losing your conference championship game and that you couldn't improve your standing if you were not playing. And I was talking to Big Mike about this earlier, because once you make that, I think the committee said that to protect the loser of the SEC championship game and the loser of the Big Ten championship game, right? Like Texas doesn't want to go from the 5 seed to the 11 seed because they lost in the SEC
like they did
championship.
Georgia last year.
Well,
Georgia
again,
went from 1 to 5.
It was a 14 playoff, though. It was different, and everybody ahead of them won. So the point I'm trying to make is that they didn't want to punish anybody who lost in a conference championship game. So the problem is, when you don't want to punish anyone who loses in a conference championship game, the issue becomes you can't punish anyone who loses in a conference championship game. It doesn't just apply to Texas. It doesn't just apply to Penn State. It also applies to SMU in this case. It's also worth noting that Iowa State and UNLV, while they're not in the playoff, Army did not fall out of the top 25 after losing in their conference championship game. So the real issue is that the committee backed themselves into a corner where they said you won't be punished. Well, if SMU's in and they lose, then they're still in. And so that is Herbstreit's point, is that we have to evaluate beyond just wins and losses. But let me ask you this, VJ, because I think we're kind of getting lost to the forest through the trees. At some point, wins and losses do have to matter. Okay, cool. The SEC is the best league on paper. Well, guess what? Alabama was the best team on paper, and they lost 3 games. So my question becomes, where is the line of delineation where games actually matter? Because if you let in Alabama with 3 losses, then next year somebody's going to lose 4 and say, well, I should be in. And then it's going to. And so there has to be a line of demarcation. And the thing with Alabama, the thing with Ole Miss, these were teams that going into the final stretch of the season, all they had, they already had the benefit of the doubt. Alabama was ahead of Indiana. Alabama was ahead of SMU when they had 2 losses. The only thing was you couldn't lose to 2 mediocre teams in the final 2 weeks of the season, Oklahoma and Auburn. And so to me, and this is where I want to throw it back to you, where is that line of delineation? Because if you're just saying, okay, they're better, well, guess what? Alabama would be favored. Alabama could have gone 3-9, and if they had the same roster, they'd be favored over a certain team. You're not going to put a 3-9 team in the field, so where is that line of demarcation?
All right, you guys are making this way more complicated than it has to be.
Why
Stop acting like that this is not still
But you're
a
saying,
business.
no, real quick, you're saying it's the best, but what is the best?
All right, let me tell you. All
Go
right,
ahead.
this is also a business. This is also still a business, guys. Stop losing in the sight that college football, NFL football, NBA, this stuff's all still a bit. It's a business. It's a business, and if you're lost in that, then I'm sorry, I can't pull you out of that. So once
it's
again,
a business, but I think it needs to be a sport.
So okay, well that's what it needs to be, and what it is are two different things.
Or else we put the Dallas Cowboys in the Super Bowl every year.
Well, no, that doesn't work that way in the NFL, and we know that. But in college football is the most different thing than anything. I joked with you in the text message, Bo, last night, dude. I used to love the BCS. I did. I used to love the BCS, and everybody hated it. And then there was the polls, and everybody hated that. There's always going to be a system, guys, that people are going to argue with. My only argument is when you are getting to the end, and it's not really going by record, and we don't have everything like in the NFL where there's divisions and there's conferences in the NBA, Major League Baseball, NHL. It's the most different sport of all sports. So then why not be different when you're talking 10, 11, and 12? There's got to be some type of eye test that's like, okay, I know Bama lost to Vandy. We get that. You can have a bad day in football, especially with the transfer portal. After this year, I think the undefeated season might be gone.
I agree
we might not ever see 15-0 again. Okay, so now we're going to really be arguing about this next year because there's going to be a handful of teams with 2 and 3 losses, especially with the portal and especially with guys opting out and just everything about college football is different now. The line is drawn on the simple eye test. Don't tell me I don't agree with you just can't go by. No, I am going to go by the eye test because this isn't the Vanderbilt game. And what was that, the end of September, early October?
No, that was late in the season.
Oklahoma was 3 weeks ago.
I know when Oklahoma was. Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt game. Okay. Oklahoma was, I guess, 3-4 weeks ago. But at the end of the day, once again, last year we had a Florida State team that got knocked out of the playoffs simply because, and I don't want to hear about 4 teams.
It was 4 teams.
But we simply heard, though, because the fact that they didn't have their quarterback. They didn't have, so going undefeated and winning your conference meant
it was
nothing.
A different set of rules.
It was. No. We're not going to do that.
Last year there was no automatic bids. This year there was 5 automatic bids to the highest ranked conference champs.
I don't have a problem with the automatic bids.
I know, but what I'm saying is Florida State would have gotten in this system. It's 2 different things. It's like saying, well, this team did this in the baseball when they only let the National League and American League champions play for the World Series.
The point I'm making is there's always going to be someone complaining and upset about who's going to get in and who shouldn't get in. My take is on the back end, 12, 11, 13, those 10, 11, 12, you can't tell me. You want to put the better game and better product on the field. I don't get why this is an argument.
Okay, so fundamentally tell me what makes Alabama – What guarantees you that Alabama would have put up a better fight than SMU?
I get Jalen Milroe, who's better than everybody on both of their rosters.
Jalen Milroe, who put up 3 points in the last road game that he played?
Well, yeah, that Jalen Milroe. And he's still better than everybody on Indiana's roster and everybody on SMU's roster.
You know who else is better?
Find me a better player.
Okay, I'll tell you what.
Find me a better SMU or Indiana player better than Jalen Milroe.
Let me jump in. Oklahoma had the 19th ranked defense in college football. Jalen Milroe scored 3 points.
Okay.
Ohio State had the number 1 ranked defense. Texas had the number 3 ranked defense. Penn State had the number 4 ranked defense. Notre Dame had the number 8 ranked defense. So if you're arguing Jalen Milroe is going to put up more points than SMU, okay, that's fine. The counter to that is he put up 3 points against an inferior defense to any of the ones that he would have faced this week.
We could pick any team and pick out one game and one player and say this is why this is right or this is why this is wrong.
So you're picking out one game. So
I'm picking out the season. I'm picking out his career. I'm picking out Jalen Milroe, the player. Shedeur Sanders, the player.
Well, yeah. Kevin Jennings had a
Travis Hunter, the player.
Kevin Jennings had a great season until Saturday. So you're doing the opposite for Kevin Jennings. You're using one game as a sample size to say that he stinks.
No,
he had a great year.
He looked bad against Clemson. He turned the ball over the first 2 possessions against Clemson. When he got on the floor on the field against the big boys, he's thrown games away. What are you talking about? He throws games
threw for 301 yards and 3 touchdowns against Clemson.
You can listen, man. Please don't mathematician me to death on this topic today. I know what he threw for. I watched the game, but when you put the tape on, how'd the game start? He threw 3 interceptions in the first quarter and a half, guys. He literally threw the game away. You go back to the Clemson game. He gets the sack fumble. Then he throws the interception. You blink, it's 14-0. That's really the game. Yes, they had a 17-point Spurs, tied the game up. But he threw the game away early. You gave the game away. When you got on the field with the big boys, you gave the game away. I'd much rather see the stars. I'd much rather see the brand. Give me the stars. Give me the brands in college football, period.
Would you say that throwing for 164 yards, 0 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions is throwing the game away?
What game is that?
That was Jalen Milroe against Oklahoma.
Yeah, he threw the game away.